Hello and welcome to this episode of my tutorial video series. The subject of this video is macroeconomics and the topic is theory of demand. This is part 4 of theory of demand, in which we shall solve some numerical problems on demand function. Theory of demand part 1, part 2 and part 3 have already been provided by me. In part 1, I have discussed what is demand, what are the factors that influence demand, what is law of demand, what are the exceptions to the law of demand, and a little introduction to demand function. In part 2, we have discussed price elasticity of demand and shapes of demand curves, that is linear and curvilinear demand curves, measurement of price elasticity according to outlay method, according to proportional method and point method. And in part 3, I have discussed cross elasticity of demand and little bit of income elasticity of demand. Now, income elasticity of demand will be discussed in details in another video. Now, this video, that is part 4 of demand function, that is the demand function of the topic, we shall solve 2 numerical problems on demand function, and we are considering a linear demand function, that is in the form of Q equals to A minus BP, where Q is the quantity, P is the price, A is a positive number, that is the positive intercept on y-axis of the demand curve, and minus B is the slope of the demand curve. Basically, B is the slope, that is tan of the angle between hypotenuse and base, and the negative sign indicates that the demand curve is downward sloping. Okay, now we have 2 problems to solve. Problem 1, this is the demand function. Q equals to 200 minus 1 by 5p. We have to find out the elasticity of demand for price $200. And problem 2, this is the demand function, that is QD equals to 300 minus 5p, and the supply function is QS equals to 100 plus 20p. We have to find out number 1, equilibrium price and quantity, that is P0 and Q0. We are denoting equilibrium price by P0 and equilibrium quantity by Q0. Number 2, if a tax of $2 per unit, okay, this is per unit tax. If a tax of $2 per unit is imposed on the seller, what are the equilibrium price and quantity, that is P0 and Q0? And number 3, the part 3, what proportion of tax is borne by the buyer? So first we are solving problem 1. What is the demand function? Solution. What is the demand function? Is given by Q equals to 200 minus 1 by 5p. Differentiating Q with respect to P, dq dp equals to ddp of 200 minus 1 by 5p equals to ddp 200 minus ddp 1 by 5p equals to 0 minus 1 by 5 equals to minus 1 by 5. Okay. Now we have to find out the price elasticity, that is ED, at price 200. Let us find out the value of Q by putting the value of P in this equation. We know Q equals to 200 minus 1 by 5p. Therefore, Q equals to 200 minus 1 by 5 into 200 equals to 200 minus 40, that comes to 160. So P is 200 and Q is 160. We know elasticity of demand. Of course, this is price elasticity of demand. ED equals to dq dp into P by Q. Okay, dq dp into P by Q. So how much is dq dp? Minus 1 by 5, and P is 200 and Q is 160. So we put their values in this equation. dq dp is equal to minus 1 by 5 into P by Q. P is 200 and Q is 160. Okay. Equals to minus 1 by 4. Therefore, ED equals to 1 by 4. The negative sign is ignored for all practical purposes. The negative sign denotes that the curve is downward sloping. Okay. So elasticity is 1 upon 1 by 4. Right? Now let us solve problem 2. What is that? Demand function is given, supply function is given. So in first part we have to find out the equilibrium price, that is P0, and equilibrium quantity, that is Q0. So Here is the solution. Number 1. We know at equilibrium QD is equal to QS. Therefore 300 minus 5P is equal to 100 plus 20P. This is demand, this is supply, and at equilibrium demand is equal to supply. So 300 minus 5P is equal to 100 plus 20P. Therefore 300 minus 100 is equal to 20P plus 5P or 200 equals to 25P. Therefore P equals to 200 divided by 25, that is 8. That is P0 equals to 8. Equilibrium price is 8. We are denoting the equilibrium price by P0. So P0 is 8. Equilibrium price is $8. Now we put the value of P0 in this equation, in the demand equation. Okay. Q0 is equal to 300 minus 5P, 5 into 8, P is 8. We have put the value in this equation. So this comes to 300 minus 40, that is 260. So equilibrium price is 8 and equilibrium quantity is 260. So P0 equals to 8, Q0 equals to 260. Okay. Now part 2. If a tax of $2 per unit is imposed on the seller, what are the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity? Now if a tax of $2 is imposed on the seller, then the supply function will change. What will be the new supply function? After tax, QS equals to 100 plus 20 into P minus 2, because a tax of $2 per unit is imposed on the seller, so its impact will be on the supply function, not on the demand function, right? So this is equal to 100 plus 20P minus 40. Okay, this is equal to 60 plus 20P. So the changed supply function after imposition of tax of $2 per unit on the seller, the new supply function takes this form: QS equals to 60 plus 20p. Now again at equilibrium, QD equals to QS. Therefore, what is QD? 300 minus 5p. 300 minus 5p is equal to 60 plus 20p. Okay. This is the changed supply function after imposition of tax of $2 per unit on the seller. Okay, 100 plus 20 into p minus 2, that is 100 plus 20p minus 40. So 100 minus 40, 60, 60 plus 20p. This is the new supply function. That is the supply function after the tax is imposed. And at equilibrium, quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. So QD is equal to QS. Now what is QD? 300 minus 5p. So 300 minus 5p is equal to 60 plus 20p. Therefore, 300 minus 60 equals to 25p. Correct? 300 minus 60 equals to 20p plus 5p, 25p, or 240 equals to 25p. Therefore, p equals to 240 divided by 25. Let us see what it comes to. This comes to 9.60. So here we write P0 because we are denoting equilibrium price by P0. So P0 equals to 9.60. 9.60. This is the new equilibrium price. Okay. So what will be the new equilibrium quantity? Therefore, we put the value of P0, that is value of P. Since it is equilibrium price, we are writing P0. Basically, it is price, new price. So we put the value of P in this equation. Therefore, Q0 equals to 300 minus 5 into 9.6. Okay. Q equals to 300 minus 5 into 9.6. So this comes to 9.6 into 5, that gives us 48. Therefore, Q0 equals to 300 minus 48, that is 252. So new equilibrium price is P0, that is 960, and new equilibrium quantity is Q0, that is 252. Correct? So we have calculated the equilibrium price and quantity after a tax of $2 per unit is imposed upon the seller. So we have solved part 1 and part 2. Now let us come to part 3. What is part 3? What proportion of tax is borne by the buyer? This is proportion of tax. Right? What is the proportion of tax? That is, this is equal to change in price divided by tax. The proportion of tax to be borne by the buyer is equal to change in price, that is the price the buyer is paying, divided by the tax imposed by the government. So how much is the change in price? So this comes to, what is new price? 9.60. So 9.60 minus, what was the old price? 8 minus 8 divided by 2. That is 1.60 divided by 2. That is equal to 0.80 or 80%. 0.80 means 80%. So 80% of the tax is borne by the buyer. That is, out of $2 of tax per unit, 80%, that is 1.60, is borne by the buyer. Correct? So we have solved two numerical problems on demand function in this video. The first problem is to find out the elasticity of demand when the demand function is given, and we have to find out the elasticity at price, at a given price, that is $200, and the demand function is Q equals to 200 minus 1 by 5p. That is, we have taken a linear demand function, that is Q equals to A minus BP. So we have differentiated Q with respect to P to find out dQ dP, that is minus 1 by 5. We have differentiated here. Now P is given, that is 200. We have put the value of P in this equation. So we have found out Q, that is P is 200 and Q is 160. Now we know price elasticity of demand is, that is ED, is equal to dQ dP into P by Q. This is the formula of price elasticity of demand, ED. Now dQ dP is minus 1 by 5. We have calculated minus 1 by 5 into P by Q. P is 200, Q is 160. So we have put the values 200 and 160. So ED is minus 1 by 4, that is 1 by 4, because we ignored the negative sign while solving numerical problems. So elasticity of demand, price elasticity of demand of the product at price 200 is 1 upon 4. Correct? Now this is problem 2. In problem 2, a demand function and a supply function is given. The demand function is given by QD equals to 300 minus 5P. QD means quantity demanded. And the supply function is given by QS equals to 100 plus 20P. QS means quantity supplied. The first question is, find the equilibrium price, that is P0, and equilibrium quantity Q0. The second one is, if a tax of $2 per unit, this is per unit, if a tax at the rate of $2 is imposed on the seller, what are the equilibrium price, that is P0, and equilibrium quantity? And the third one is, what proportion of tax is borne by the buyer? So first come to part 1. We have to find out the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. We know at equilibrium, quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. So we have equated the demand function and supply function, that is QD equals to QS. So 300 minus 5P is equal to 100 plus 20P. Now we have simply solved these equations for P0 and Q0. P0 is 8, that is price is 8, and Q0 is 260. Quantity demanded is 260 and supplied is 260. So equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity are $8 and 260 units respectively. So part 1 is done. Now come to part 2. If a tax at the rate of $2 is imposed, then what will be the equilibrium quantity and equilibrium price? So when a tax at the rate of $2 per unit is imposed, then the supply function changes and the new supply function becomes this: QS equals to 100 plus 20 into P minus 2, because 2 is the tax per unit. So new supply function is QS equals to 100 plus 20 into P minus 2. That is equal to 60 plus 20P. Now again at equilibrium, quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied, that is QD is equal to QS. So QD remains the same, that is 300 minus 5P. 300 minus 5P. We have equated 300 minus 5P with the new supply function 60 plus 20P. And once again we have simply solved for P0 and Q0, that is new equilibrium price and quantity. Now P0 is 9.60, that is $9.60 per unit, and Q0 is equal to 252 units. That is the new equilibrium price is $9.60 and the new equilibrium quantity is 252 units. So part 2 is done. Now come to part 3. What proportion of tax is borne by the buyer? Now, proportion of tax borne by the buyer is equal to change in price, that is the price the buyer is paying now minus the price the buyer was paying before imposition of tax. So new price is 9.60, we have solved 9.60 minus old price 8, that gives us the change in price 9.60 minus 8 divided by 2, that is divided by the tax rate, tax per unit. So 9.60 minus 8 by 2. This gives us 0.80, that is 80%. So 80% of the tax is borne by the buyer. So both the problems are solved. You will find problems on demand functions mostly of this nature, these types in your exams, and of course I shall solve many more problems on demand function, production function, consumption function, and markets. You will get lot of solved numerical problems in my other videos. For this video, I think this is enough. What we have learned? We have learned how to deal with the demand function, how to find out equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity, how to find out elasticity of demand, how to find out the new equilibrium price and quantity if a tax is imposed, and how to find out the proportion of tax to be borne by the buyer. Okay, yeah, so far so good. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please do subscribe our channel, please do like our channel, please do send your comments, your queries, right? And thank you so much for watching this video. Best of luck and stay well. Goodbye.